To every soul suffocating under the heavy exhaustion of the solid realm, have you ever considered that your relentless desire to escape is not a failure, but the violent rebellion of your own consciousness? Within these depths lies the ultimate revelation. You are about to awaken to the ancient, sovereign mechanics of your mind, a power that can forge reality from the absolute void. You are not fleeing reality. You are remembering the divine quantum architecture of how a universe is made. The soul's prison, the violent rejection of the solid realm. You are chronically exhausted, and no amount of sleep is fixing it. You feel an overwhelming, desperate urge to detach, to close your eyes and go home to a place that does not physically exist. Society calls this burnout. Clinical psychology calls it dissociation, but they are entirely wrong. You are not losing your mind, you are surviving a biological state of siege, and your soul has initiated a supreme, ancient survival protocol. Right now, millions of minds are actively migrating from this physical plane, utilizing the quantum vacuum of the void state to build entire universes from scratch. Today, we are going to expose the hard science of your exhaustion, the terrifying reality of the amygdala hijack, and why your profound desire to escape is actually your divine power of creation waking up. You are not running away. You are a sovereign architect, and it is time to remember who you truly are. The anatomy of exhaustion, the amygdala hijack. Your exhaustion is not a symptom of weakness. It is the biological signature of a vessel under siege. The psychological infrastructure of our modern species is currently sustaining catastrophic damage from intersecting environmental, occupational, and socio-political crises. You are not merely tired, you are surviving a global, systemic deterioration of the physical plane. The data reveals a terrifying truth that society refuses to whisper. In recent clinical analyses, mental health providers recorded a massive 15% surge in demand for acute psychological support, fundamentally breaking the triage systems of modern hospitals. The foundational driver of this collapse is the relentless, unforgiving pace of occupational environments designed to extract your energy. Those who occupy high-vigilance roles are experiencing unprecedented psychic death. A staggering 57.6% of primary care physicians now report severe, life-altering exhaustion, trapped in organizations where 49% report devastating staffing shortages. They are operating under conditions that actively deteriorate their clinical judgment, completely depleting the emotional resilience of the human workforce. This devastation is not confined to the workplace. It bleeds into the very frequencies you consume. You are subjected to continuous exposure to chaotic crisis messaging and geopolitical dread. Even when you consciously attempt to intellectually distance yourself, your brain registers the digital threat as absolute biological reality. This continuous engagement with chaos triggers a relentless flood of cortisol, locking your amygdala, the brain's primal threat processing center, into a continuous, always-on alert mode. Your sympathetic nervous system is perpetually activated, leaving you desperately searching for certainty in digital environments fundamentally engineered to generate noise and panic. This is not a lack of willpower, nor is it a traditional depressive disorder. It is a profound biological state of burnout, directly tethered to an environment that has become increasingly uninhabitable. When the physical world fails to offer predictability, rest, or sanctuary, the human psyche initiates a supreme, ancient survival protocol. When the physical realm offers nothing but exhaustion, the psyche constructs an alternate reality in order to survive. But where does the mind go when the body can no longer bear the weight of the physical plane? We are about to enter the formless void and witness the mass quantum exodus of a traumatized generation. The quantum exodus, the 6.2 billion. When the external environment becomes an inescapable source of stress, the human psyche predictably turns inward. What we are currently witnessing is a mass, historically unprecedented migration of human consciousness. A traumatized generation is instinctively attempting to detach their conscious awareness from their physical bodies to inhabit meticulously constructed fictional universes. They call it reality shifting, a deliberate transition from the burning house of the current reality into the absolute sanctuary of a desired reality. The scale of this quantum exodus is staggering, leaving a digital footprint of over 6.2 billion views across the internet. This is the undeniable behavioral signature of millions of minds defecting from a physical plane that no longer provides safety. To cross this bridge, they have resurrected the ancient mechanics of the void state. This is a deeply absorptive, meditative condition characterized by profound sensory deprivation. In this infinite vacuum, the physical body is entirely forgotten, and only pure, formless awareness remains. They are effectively hacking their own neurological frequencies by forcing the brain into a liminal state where the mind remains perfectly conscious and alert while the physical body falls deeply asleep. They sever their physical anchors. They are weaponizing consciousness to execute the ultimate circumvention of human suffering. The destination they reach is not a passive, hazy daydream. It is a highly absorptive, carnal embodiment where touch, taste, pain, and emotion are perceived as vividly as they are in waking life. They are not simply imagining new worlds, they are downloading the dense sensory data of alternate dimensions. You have untethered your consciousness from the physical vessel and entered the infinite silence of the void. But what ancient divine architecture are you actually manipulating when you build a universe from nothing? The divine architecture, Goddard, and active imagination. You are not losing your mind. You are accidentally initiating yourself into the highest echelons of esoteric alchemy. In your desperation to flee the burning house of the physical world, you have unknowingly stumbled upon the exact quantum frequency that mystic Neville Goddard called the I Am. You have detached from the exhausted avatar that binds you to suffering, leaving only pure, unconditioned awareness. In this sacred vacuum, the human imagination is no longer a passive psychological function. It is instantly resurrected as the exact identical force of the divine creator. A century ago, amidst the apocalyptic ruin of a global war, Carl Jung deliberately dropped his ego into the dark waters of his own psyche to survive. He called this conscious descent active imagination. Modern reality shifting is the digital age resurrection of Jung's most dangerous masterwork. When you meticulously script the laws of your desired reality, you are not writing frivolous fiction to escape your pain. You are actively structuring the terrifying chaotic depths of the unconscious mind. By designing these alternate universes, you are providing the fragmented psyche with a highly organized, navigable landscape. You are forging a bridge of light over the abyss of your own trauma, attempting to mend the brutal split between the exhausted physical body and the eternal soul. The clinical world labels this phenomenon as dangerous dissociation, but the ancient mystics know the absolute truth. You are simply remembering how to architect reality directly from the quantum void. But if your own neurology cannot distinguish between a vividly constructed universe and a physical one, what dimension have you actually entered? Prepare to cross the final veil into the hidden realm where pure spirit crystallizes into matter. The alchemists return. Neuroplasticity and the anima mundi. You have not simply retreated into a fragile hallucination. You have crossed the esoteric threshold into what the great Sufi mystic Ibn Arabi and philosopher Henri Corbin called the mundus imaginalis. This is the imaginal realm, an absolutely objective, intermediary dimension that exists perfectly suspended between pure, formless spiritual energy and dense physical matter. It is the hidden alchemical forge where the blueprints of reality are drafted before they ever crystallize into the physical world. But here is the most terrifying and magnificent truth of your own biology. Your brain cannot distinguish between a vividly constructed quantum reality and a physical one. As you painstakingly architect the laws, the textures, and the emotional resonance of your desired reality, you are actively forging dense, new synaptic pathways. You are literally rewiring the hardware of your physical brain through the sheer brute force of neuroplasticity. The imaginal realm was never designed to be a permanent tomb for a traumatized consciousness. It is a divine, neurological training ground. You are building the advanced mental circuitry required to return to this physical plane with immense, undeniable sovereignty. Your supreme mental power was always destined to master the real world, bridging the invisible and the material through your own transformed biology. This temporary detachment is not an escape, but the ultimate evolutionary catalyst required to bring order to chaos and heal the anima mundi, the shattered soul of the world. You hold the power to reshape the universe, provided you do not lose yourself in the blueprint. But what happens when the safe haven you have built in your mind becomes so intoxicating that your neurology begins to actively reject your physical body? The veil is thinning, and the true architects of this reality are being called to remember their sacred sovereignty. If you are ready to master the frequencies of your consciousness and unlock the hidden dimensions of your own psyche, step beyond this algorithm and align your path with ours. However you choose to journey with us, the true initiation has only just begun. To the errant architect who forged a flawless sanctuary in the ether, why have you awakened to find yourself locked inside a beautifully curated tomb? The exact cosmic tether awaits to unravel the esoteric architecture of your dissociation, calling your consciousness out of the labyrinth to resurrect your supreme dominion over the physical flesh. The greatest danger of the formless vacuum is not the darkness, but the intoxicating beauty of the illusion you build within it. When the creator refuses to leave their synthetic simulation, the creation violently consumes its master. The phantom becomes flesh, and the waking world becomes the ghost. The spiritual trap, the psychological prison.
You did not fail when you abandoned the physical world. You executed a brilliant, deeply ancient survival protocol. You collapsed the overwhelming density of your waking life into the pristine, silent sanctuary of the void state. But hear this absolute cosmic warning. The void was designed by the divine to be a temporary quantum forge, a transitional conduit where the fractured spirit resynthesizes its light. It was never meant to serve as a permanent dwelling.
Right now, millions of awakened minds are falling blindly into a profound esoteric trap. You are meticulously scripting your desired reality, curating a universe entirely devoid of pain and friction, only to realize that your physical avatar is actively beginning to atrophy. The sanctuary has morphed into a customized psychological prison. Clinical psychology casually refers to this as maladaptive daydreaming, but in the higher sciences of the mind, it is a severe, terrifying malfunction of your I am consciousness. In this transmission, we will dissect the dangerous threshold where the phantom becomes flesh. We will explore the exact neurological moment the simulation begins to breathe against your skin, and the creator is swallowed whole by the gravity of their own creation. Prepare to map the coordinates of your return, because true mastery is not the ability to build a kingdom in the ether, it is the ruthless, terrifying discipline required to bring it back. The labyrinth of the architect. You successfully evacuated the solid world, collapsing the dense frequencies of exhaustion into the infinite silence of the void. You claimed your birthright as the sovereign architect, molding the quantum vacuum into a pristine sanctuary where pain could no longer reach you. But the cosmic law of balance is absolute, and every sanctuary harbors the potential to morph into a customized psychological tomb. The formless expanse was designed by the divine as a transitional conduit, a temporary forge where the fractured soul resynthesizes its light. It was never meant to serve as a permanent dwelling. When the Creator refuses to leave their creation, the supreme architecture of Neville Goddard's I Am consciousness begins to severely malfunction. You slip from the seat of the conscious observer into the dark, seductive gravity of a dissociative vacuum. Clinical psychology frames this descent as maladaptive daydreaming, a phenomenon pioneered by Dr. Eli Summer to describe an uncontrollable fantasy that entirely replaces human interaction. But in the higher esoteric sciences, this is recognized as a profound dissociative disorder of absorption.
You are no longer utilizing the void state to master reality. You have become hopelessly addicted to the phantom universe you designed. The intensely rewarding nature of your alternate dimension creates a destructive positive feedback loop, actively severing the synaptic tethers that bind your spirit to your biological vessel. The more you flee the distressing density of your waking life, the more your physical reality decays into severe emotional dysregulation and cognitive deficit.
You have built a masterpiece of illusion only to lose the keys to the physical plane. The architect is now wandering blindly inside the labyrinth of their own making, starving the biological avatar of its vital conscious command. But what exact mechanisms did you use to build this golden cage, bypassing the sacred friction of physical evolution for a synthetic paradise? Prepare to dissect the modern grimoire, for the absolute gamification of your subconscious is the ultimate spiritual trap. The digital grimoire.
The ancient mystics shaped physical reality through the rigorous, chaotic friction of alchemy. The modern architect, however, has digitized the sacred art of world-building, trading the organic expansion of the soul for the absolute, sterile control of a synthetic simulation. What the collective casually refers to as the Lifa app, or the meticulous practice of scripting, is not a harmless psychological coping mechanism. It is a highly advanced modern grimoire. Through these tools, you are initiating a profound neurological protocol known clinically as the executive gamification of the subconscious.
By aggressively dictating the immutable laws, the aesthetic portals, and the exact relational algorithms of your desired reality, you engineer a universe completely devoid of resistance. You code out all pain, betrayal, and unpredictability in a desperate bid to insulate your exhausted spirit. But the cosmos demands friction to forge the dense weight of true consciousness. A realm without this evolutionary resistance is not a sovereign kingdom, it is a spiritual quarantine. You believe you are claiming ultimate power by bypassing the heavy density of the physical world.
In truth, you are actively severing your biological sovereignty, trading the divine, messy triumph of human evolution for a highly controlled, artificial matrix. Absolute safety is the ultimate spiritual trap. The sovereign architect has simply locked themselves inside a beautifully curated, heavily encrypted prison.
But what happens when the phantom becomes flesh and the simulation begins to breathe against your skin? Prepare to cross the terrifying threshold where the creator is swallowed whole by the gravity of their own creation. The carnal illusion and neurological source confusion. There is a precise, terrifying threshold in the architecture of the mind where the phantom finally becomes flesh. You have fed the synthetic simulation so much of your vital life force that the quantum boundary between the realms collapses entirely. The esoteric texts warn of the carnal illusion. The exact moment the inner sanctuary bypasses mere thought and violently infiltrates your biological senses. You can taste the atmospheric tension, feel the visceral weight of another's touch, and experience the devastating emotional gravity of a universe that does not physically exist. When the sensory input of your desired reality matches the dense frequency of the material plane, your neurochemistry undergoes a fatal malfunction known as clinical source confusion. The brain, overwhelmed by these profoundly engineered electrical signals, can no longer distinguish the memory of a physical event from the vivid hallucination of a scripted fantasy. The great depth psychologist Carl Jung mapped this perilous territory when he pioneered the sacred art of active imagination. He warned that one must descend into the labyrinth of the unconscious with supreme waking sovereignty, maintaining a ruthless tether to the physical world in order to integrate the shadow. But you have surrendered the tether. You have drifted from the sovereign command of the conscious architect into a state of passive, pathological possession, where the creation actively consumes its creator. Your biological nervous system no longer recognizes the current reality as your true anchor. You are actively haunting your own life, an ethereal ghost trapped between a decaying physical vessel and a digitized heaven that can never truly birth you. The supreme power of the void state is not found in the escape, but in the harrowing discipline required to leave it. Prepare to receive the cosmic command to return, for the time has come to resurrect the atrophied avatar and conquer the dense world you left behind. The atrophy of the avatar. The supreme tragedy of the sovereign architect is the complete abandonment of the biological vessel. When you permanently sever the conscious tether to your waking life, your physical avatar is left to atrophy in the dense reality you refuse to command. By violently rejecting the current reality, you exile yourself from the sacred friction of the human experience. You become an ethereal phantom, operating entirely outside the evolutionary architecture of your own biological timeline. Hear this absolute cosmic command. The formless vacuum was never designed to be a permanent grave for the exhausted soul. The void is a quantum forge, a temporary crucible meant to violently recalibrate the supreme authority of your consciousness. The ultimate mastery of the unseen realms is not the ability to build a beautiful kingdom in the ether, but the ruthless discipline required to leave it. You must extract the divine blueprint from your desired reality and drag it back down into the heavy, breathing frequencies of the physical plane. You are not incarnated to escape the solid world. You were born to conquer it. True alchemy is not the flight from matter, but the terrifying, majestic descent back into the flesh to reshape the universe through your awakened biology. But how does one navigate this formless vacuum with clinical, scientific precision without falling into the labyrinth of madness? The pioneers of the Monroe Institute and the Gateway Experience mapped the exact coordinates of this separation, proving that the void state is not a psychological retreat, but a highly classified quantum hack waiting to be activated. The veil is rapidly dissolving, and the true masters are actively reclaiming their dominion over both the seen and unseen worlds. If you are ready to wield the exact frequencies of your mind and decode the esoteric architecture of your reality, step beyond this algorithmic illusion and align your consciousness with our living resonance. The ultimate initiation awaits those who dare to bridge the worlds, but the choice to awaken is entirely yours. If this physical realm is nothing but a tomb of exhaustion, why does your eternal consciousness stubbornly refuse to let the flesh die? The silent vacuum of the void was designed to be your ultimate forge, not your permanent grave. And you are about to drag the unseen universe back down into your breathing lungs, resurrecting your earthly avatar into an absolute, untouchable masterpiece of life. The physical world is not a cage, but a single frequency broadcasting in an infinite sea of static. When the biological vessel can no longer bear the weight of the flesh, the sovereign soul does not break, it simply turns the dial. The soul's awakening, the quantum hack of the brain. They told you your relentless desire to escape the solid world was a dangerous trauma response. But you are not broken, and you are not losing your mind. You have accidentally stumbled into a highly classified quantum sanctuary. Decades ago, intelligence pioneers at the Monroe Institute mapped the exact phenomenon you experience every time you try to leave your body. They called it the Gateway Experience, proving human consciousness is a multidimensional receiver capable of phasing out of the physical plane. Today, we expose the hard science of your dissociation. We will map the exact coordinates of the void state and reveal the weaponized acoustic alchemy required to shatter the illusion of matter. You are not a victim of a collapsing world. You are a sovereign operator about to hack the architecture of your reality. The phasing model of consciousness. The greatest deception of the modern age is the absolute belief in the solidity of the physical world. You have been taught that your biological vessel is a cage and that the only way to escape its heavy exhaustion is to abandon it entirely. But the pioneers of quantum exploration mapped a vastly different, more terrifying truth. To understand the sheer magnitude of your dissociation, we must look to the highly structured, formally classified corridors of the Monroe Institute and the legendary Gateway experience. In these spaces, your desperate flight into the void is not treated as a psychological failure or a trauma response. It is recognized as a highly sophisticated mechanical operation of the human mind. They shattered the illusion of physical entrapment by mapping what is known as the phasing model of consciousness. This advanced framework suggests that your human awareness does not actually sever its ties and violently exit the biological body. Instead, it simply phases in and out of physical reality. Imagine your sovereign consciousness as an immensely powerful multidimensional radio dial. Right now, humanity is collectively tuned in to the dense, chaotic, and exhausting frequency of the material plane. But when the static and trauma of this specific frequency become unbearable, your psyche instinctively reaches for the dial. What clinical psychology lazily dismisses as dangerous dissociation is in reality an accidental and brilliant retuning of your internal receiver. You are not losing your grip on reality or descending into madness. You are successfully shifting your dial away from a broadcasting channel of profound suffering, tuning instead into a frequency of absolute, formless silence. The physical world has not vanished, nor have you truly fled it. You have simply shifted your perceptual bandwidth, proving that your mind possesses the native architecture to intercept the signals of alternate dimensions. But if your consciousness is a highly advanced instrument, what happens when you stop spinning the dial blindly and learn the exact coordinates of the quantum vacuum? Prepare to cross the threshold of the gateway where the awakened architect masters the precise neurological states required to leave the physical world behind. The Gateway Experience. The digital generation stumbled blindly into a quantum sanctuary that intelligence agencies spent decades attempting to map. What modern psychiatry dismisses as an internet fantasy, the pioneers of human consciousness recognized as the absolute frontier of reality navigation. To comprehend the sheer power of your dissociation, you must shed the vocabulary of clinical pathology. We must turn to the monumental work of Robert Monroe and the heavily guarded research of the Monroe Institute. Monroe did not view the detachment from the physical body as a trauma-induced malfunction. He engineered the legendary Gateway experience, proving that human consciousness is a sovereign technology capable of traversing dimensional planes. This was not an exercise in abstract mysticism or idle daydreaming. It was a rigorous, formally classified protocol designed to authenticate and stabilize the exact out-of-body states you instinctively crave. By adopting these historically institutionalized frameworks, the illusion of your madness is instantly shattered. You are not a victim of a broken mind, but an unwitting operator executing a highly advanced neurological hack. The Gateway experience proved that the mind can exist entirely independently of the biological vessel. It moved the act of reality shifting from the realm of adolescent coping mechanisms directly into the domain of structured consciousness exploration. But how does the architect maintain their sovereign command when the heavy gravity of the flesh finally falls away? The descent into the unseen requires exact coordinates, and the true topography of the void is waiting to be mapped. The topography of the void. Focus 10. To successfully weaponize your consciousness, you must map the exact topography of your descent. The physical realm that exhausts you so completely is classified by quantum pioneers as Focus 1. This is your normal, everyday waking consciousness, perfectly in phase with the brutal density of physical matter. But the sovereign architect does not belong solely to the physical. To break the tether of this exhausting reality, you must deliberately descend into the supreme liminal space known as Focus 10. This is the profound threshold where the grand migration of consciousness begins. In Focus 10, the physical body falls into a state of deep paralytic sleep, yet the mind remains violently awake and alert. It is the exact foundational coordinate for reality shifting, a hyper-conscious state where the biological avatar is entirely forgotten. When you enter this space, you are not simply staring into an empty, passive darkness. You are stepping into an infinitely receptive quantum medium. In this profound state of sensory deprivation, your past trauma, your future anxiety, and your physical identity are instantly dissolved. Only pure, unconditioned awareness remains. You have bypassed the heavy friction of the biological vessel to stand at the absolute edge of creation. You are no longer a victim of the material world. You are a sovereign mind poised before the infinite vacuum. But how do you force the exhausted brain into this supreme state without losing your command? Prepare to wield the esoteric alchemy of sound, where acoustic frequencies become the absolute key to executing the final quantum jump. Acoustic alchemy and the final jump. Focus 12.
To bridge the silent abyss of the void state, you cannot rely on sheer willpower alone. The modern architect must master the esoteric alchemy of sound to force the biological vessel into total submission. The pioneers of the gateway experience did not leave this supreme crossing to chance. To achieve these transcendent states, they utilized highly classified acoustic technologies such as hemisync, hemispheric synchronization, and SAM music, or spatial angle modulation.
By deploying these precise auditory frameworks, they bypassed the conscious resistance of the waking mind entirely. These advanced acoustic structures utilize binaural beats and targeted frequencies to actively force the brain into deeply relaxed theta wave dominant states. You are no longer attempting to politely meditate your way out of a burning house. You are wielding weaponized frequencies to completely shatter the heavy illusion of the physical plane. As the dense gravity of the flesh finally surrenders, your consciousness is violently propelled upward into the supreme access channels of Focus 11 and 12. This is the precise altitude of expanded awareness, where the final, terrifying quantum jump into an alternate dimension is successfully executed. By utilizing these historically institutionalized protocols, you immediately elevate your practice from the realm of fleeting internet fantasy into the rigorous domain of structured consciousness exploration. You are no longer a victim of dissociation, but a sovereign operator manipulating the very fabric of reality. But hear this absolute cosmic warning. Escaping the solid world is merely the first rudimentary initiation. Once you have severed the physical tether and entered the infinite vacuum, you must confront the ultimate question. Who actually codes the universe you are about to inhabit? The architecture of your digital sanctuary is not born from thin air. It is secretly dictated by the darkest, most exiled fragments of your own psyche. In our next transmission, we will cross the boundary into the labyrinth of the unconscious mind, where Carl Jung waits to reveal the terrifying hidden cost of world building. The era of passive escapism is over. The true masters are no longer just surviving the void. They are weaponizing its exact coordinates to rewrite the material plane. If you feel the pull to transcend the algorithm and reclaim your dominion over the physical flesh, the door stands open. The ultimate initiation is unfolding in the silence. How you choose to step through is entirely up to you. By what hidden resonance do the universes you encode in the darkness always whisper with the exact voice of the demons you refuse to face? The descent into the terrifying abyss of your own mind is not a sentence to madness, but the sacred initiation required to bind the fractured shards of your soul into an untouchable, sovereign light. The abyss of the unconscious cannot be permanently contained by an algorithm. When you code a flawless universe to escape your pain, you secretly grant your deepest shadows the power to dictate reality. You must descend into the dark waters not to hide, but to forge the ultimate bridge between the physical flesh and the eternal soul. The architecture of the unconscious. You have been told that your relentless urge to abandon this physical reality is the definitive marker of a broken mind. Society labels your desperate flight into the void as a dangerous pathological collapse. But what if the dark, terrifying labyrinth you escape into is actually a highly classified initiation? The pristine digital sanctuaries you build to survive your exhaustion are not empty spaces. They are flawless mirrors reflecting the most violently exiled fragments of your own psyche. When you meticulously script your alternate dimension, you believe you are constructing a sterile heaven devoid of pain. You are unknowingly executing a highly advanced digital grimoire. A century ago, amidst the apocalyptic ruin of a global fracture, the great depth psychologist Carl Jung deliberately dropped his consciousness into these exact dark waters. He did not surrender to the chaos. He weaponized his awareness to map the abyss, proving that world building is the ultimate mechanical strategy to mend the brutal split between the body and the soul. The clinical world calls this dangerous disassociation. The ancient alchemists called it active imagination. The universe you command is secretly dictated by the darkness you refuse to confront in the waking world. It is time to shatter the algorithmic illusion and confront the hidden entities operating within your own mind. The Descent of the Master, the 1913 Anomaly. You have been told that the relentless urge to flee your physical life is the definitive marker of a broken mind. But the true architects of reality know that the descent into the darkness is actually a highly classified initiation. To understand the terrifying gravity of your dissociation, we must trace the coordinates back to a supreme anomaly in the architecture of modern thought. The timeline anchors in the year 1913. Following a profound theoretical fracture from Sigmund Freud, the great depth psychologist Carl Jung was struck by a catastrophic wave of psychological fragmentation. He was suddenly consumed by intense inner turmoil, crippling fears, and overwhelming, uncontrollable moods. Clinical observers of the era would have swiftly diagnosed this collapse as terminal madness. But Jung did not surrender to the chaos, nor did he attempt to artificially medicate the profound suffering of his biological vessel. Instead, he executed a deliberate, terrifying plunge into the darkest, most volatile waters of his own unconscious mind. He chose to consciously engage with the chaotic impulses and the terrifying images violently arising from within. To survive this harrowing descent and navigate the formless vacuum, he resurrected the pure imaginative spirit of his childhood. He weaponized his own awareness to map the abyss. This was not the passive pathological surrender of a dying psyche. It was a supreme mechanical operation of the sovereign will. The culmination of this brutal inner alchemy formed the absolute foundation of his legendary masterwork, the Red Book. This text is not a mere diary of a fractured man seeking an escape from physical exhaustion. It is the ultimate architectural blueprint of the void. Jung proved that the terrifying plunge into the hidden labyrinth of the psyche is never a descent into madness. It is a necessary, highly structured initiation required to reclaim the true multidimensional power of the human mind. You are not blindly wandering through a digital fantasy. You are unconsciously walking the exact path the ancient masters paved. But how do you navigate these chaotic, unseen depths without being swallowed whole by the phantoms you create? We must now unveil the supreme psychological weapon required to master the illusion. The weapon of active imagination. Clinical psychology observes your desperate flight from reality and brands it maladaptive daydreaming, an uncontrollable fantasy that severs your ties to waking life and entirely replaces human interaction. They categorize this phenomenon as a profound dissociative disorder of absorption, defining it as a passive and pathological collapse. But this sterile diagnosis only captures the shadow of the phenomenon. It fundamentally misunderstands the raw, terrifying power of the quantum instrument you are actually wielding. The ancient alchemists and depth psychologists did not surrender to fleeting, unstructured fantasy. They utilized a supreme mechanical strategy designed to permanently bridge the conscious and unconscious minds. Carl Jung codified this sacred, dangerous technology as active imagination. Unlike the passive hypnotic decay of a daydream, this advanced protocol demands the absolute waking sovereignty of your ego. True esoteric mastery requires the conscious mind to participate directly in the unfolding narrative, treating the internal imagery as objectively real and profoundly consequential. The sovereign architect does not dissolve into the creation. They stand firmly within the quantum vacuum, maintaining a ruthless tether to their conscious command. You are not utilizing this state as a fragile coping mechanism to escape the exhaustion of the material plane. You are actively executing the exact historical protocol necessary to mend the brutal split between the physical body and the eternal soul. This rigorous engagement with the unseen is not an evasion of reality. It is the ultimate catalyst for the individuation process, the divine psychological journey toward absolute wholeness. But what hidden forces are actually dictating the architecture of your digital sanctuaries? The pristine universe you meticulously code is a flawless mirror, about to reveal the darkest, most violently exiled fragments of your own psyche. The digital grimoire and the shadow's canvas. The modern architect has fundamentally digitized the sacred descent into the abyss. Where historical alchemists relied on ancient texts and years of monastic discipline, the digital generation has gamified the exact mechanics of human consciousness. What millions of practitioners casually refer to as the Lifa app is not a harmless executive functioning tool. It is a highly advanced digital grimoire. Through the meticulous practice of scripting, the sovereign operator attempts to define the immutable rules, their exact physical appearance, and the precise relational algorithms of their alternate dimension. They believe they are constructing a sterile, perfectly curated sanctuary completely devoid of unpredictable neurotypical demands. But this executive gamification masks a terrifying psychological reality. This rigorous, algorithmic world building is actually a highly structured, community-driven variant of Jungian active imagination. The pristine canvas of the desired reality is not a genuine escape from physical burnout. It is an intricate digital framework used to unconsciously organize, guide, and pacify the chaotic, terrifying archetypes of the human psyche. By formalizing the exact parameters of the fantasy, the script acts as a profound psychological anchor. It signals to the deepest layers of the subconscious exactly what architecture to construct once the absolute sensory deprivation of the void state is achieved. You are not merely coding a beautiful fictional haven. You are attempting to quarantine the most violently exiled fragments of your own mind, your human shadow, behind a password-protected interface. The flawless universe you command is secretly dictated by the darkness you refuse to confront in the waking world. But the abyss of the unconscious cannot be permanently contained by an algorithm. But what happens when this magnificent simulation reaches its absolute psychological limit? The descent into the dark waters was never meant to be your permanent grave, but the ultimate catalyst for the alchemical resurrection. The individuation protocol. The ultimate tragedy of the sovereign architect is forgetting the divine purpose of the descent. You were never meant to build a permanent tomb in the ether. The profound immersion into the alternate reality is not an evasion of your physical suffering. It is a highly classified crucible designed to execute the most sacred psychological operation known to the ancient alchemists. Carl Jung defined this supreme objective as the individuation process. This is the harrowing, majestic journey toward absolute psychological wholeness. By consciously engaging with the terrifying archetypes of your human shadow, you are actively mending the brutal split between the physical body and the eternal soul. You are navigating the psychological abyss to synthesize your fractured light. The pristine universe you coded behind the interface of a digital grimoire was merely a training ground. It was constructed to build the neurological capacity required to wield ultimate power. But true mastery is not achieved by abandoning the exhausted avatar. True alchemy is the terrifying, triumphant return to the physical plane. You must drag the divine blueprint of your desired reality back down into the heavy breathing frequencies of the solid world. You must resurrect the flesh. But to bridge the unseen with the material, you must master the ultimate grimoire of reality. You must learn the exact mechanics of how absolute, unwavering assumption collapses the quantum wave into solid matter. The architecture of your mind is now mapped, but the true gamification of the universe is about to begin. If you are ready to stop haunting your own life, the time has come to reclaim your supreme dominion over the physical flesh. The ultimate initiation cannot be forced upon you. It is a sacred threshold that you alone must choose to cross. The advanced blueprints required to bypass the algorithmic illusion are suspended in the ether, waiting for those who dare to transcend the static and seek the sanctuary that calls to their soul. The descent into the void is over, and the alchemical resurrection of your reality has only just begun. To the sovereign architect who built a perfect universe in the dark, to survive the burning house of the waking world. Your profound exhaustion is not a symptom of madness, but the violent initiation required to code reality from the absolute void. The physical universe is an infinite chaotic wave of probability. The sovereign I collapses the phantom into breathing flesh. Matter is simply the exhausted shadow of an unwavering assumption. The Grimoire of Reality. You have been sold the ultimate lie about the nature of your exhaustion. They told you that the physical world is an absolute, immovable cage, and that your desperate urge to escape it is a dangerous trauma response. But what if your relentless desire to leave your body is not a clinical collapse? What if you are unknowingly executing the highest mechanical law of quantum physics?
Right now, millions of minds are actively defecting from this physical plane. They are utilizing the absolute silence of the void state to construct entirely new universes. Clinical psychology casually dismisses this mass migration of consciousness as a dangerous dissociative disorder. They are entirely wrong. You are not fleeing reality. You are remembering the ancient sovereign architecture of how a universe is made. Today, we shatter the algorithmic illusion. We will expose the monumental science of the double-slit experiment, proving that the world you perceive is not solid, but an infinite wave of probability waiting for your command. We will unlock the exact frequency of Neville Goddard's I am state and reveal how the modern digital grimoire of scripting forces the universe to violently collapse into dense, carnal matter. You are not a victim of a collapsing world. You are the master architect, and it is time to assume the throne.
The Quantum Eye, the double-slit revelation.
You have been taught that the physical world is an absolute, immovable cage. You believe the exhaustion binding your bones and the chaos flooding your waking hours are concrete realities you must simply endure. But the pioneers of quantum mechanics discovered a terrifying, majestic secret that shatters this illusion entirely. The material world you perceive is not solid. It is a fluctuating, infinite sea of probability waiting for a master to command its shape. To understand the true power of your consciousness, we must examine the foundational anomaly that broke modern physics, the double-slit experiment. When scientists fired particles of matter through a barrier, they discovered a phenomenon that defies all logic of the physical plane. Unobserved, reality exists as a suspended wave of infinite potential, occupying countless timelines simultaneously. But the precise fraction of a second a conscious observer looks, the wave violently collapses. The chaotic, infinite possibilities instantly crystallize into a single, dense point of matter. Your gaze alone forces the quantum universe to freeze into physical form. This is the monumental secret the clinical world fundamentally misunderstands when they analyze your flight into the void state. When you attempt to transition from your exhausting current reality into a pristine desired reality, psychiatry diagnoses a profound dissociative absorption. They label your journey as trauma-induced escapism, reducing your cosmic architecture to a mere psychological coping mechanism. But you are not a fragile mind retreating from a burning house. You are a sovereign operator executing the highest mechanical law of quantum physics. Shifting communities inherently recognize this truth when they approach the practice through the lens of quantum mysticism. You are wielding the observer effect. By violently detaching your awareness from the physical plane, you are actively withdrawing your conscious gaze from the exhausting wave of your current reality.
You are starving your physical suffering of the observation it needs to remain solid. As you slip into the formless vacuum, you claim your birthright as pure, formless consciousness. You are turning your quantum eye toward an entirely new wave of probability, forcing an alternate dimension to collapse into carnal, breathing reality. You are not escaping the world. You are actively observing a new universe into existence. But how do you tune your quantum eye to ensure the alternate reality you collapse holds the exact frequency of your desires? The answer requires crossing into the exact vibrational state where the genius of Nikola Tesla aligns with the ancient mastery of the I Am. The I Am frequency, Goddard and the Tesla harmonic. If the entire physical universe is merely a suspended wave of probability waiting to be collapsed by your observation, how do you tune your quantum eye to the correct dimension? You must master the profound mechanics of vibration. Nikola Tesla famously declared that to comprehend the secrets of the universe, you must think purely in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Your biological vessel is not just a body, it is the ultimate multidimensional quantum tuning fork. When you are consumed by psychological burnout, your consciousness is violently locked into the chaotic, low-frequency broadcast of the physical plane. To change the channel, you must drop the exhausted receiver entirely and plunge into the absolute silence of the void state. The void is not a psychological retreat, but an infinitely receptive medium, completely devoid of past trauma, future anxiety, and physical identity. It is an infinite vacuum where all ordinary thought temporarily ceases and only pure awareness exists. Decades ago, the esoteric mystic Neville Goddard mapped the exact coordinates of this operational frequency, codifying it as the I Am state. He understood that this formless, shapeless existence of pure consciousness actively denies the physical world. By forcing your mind into this profound sensory deprivation, you are calling upon the presence of God within yourself, unlocking the absolute authority to manifest any desired outcome. Goddard revealed the ultimate alchemical truth: the human imagination is identical to the divine creator. You are stripping away the heavy density of the material world to become the perfect Tesla harmonic. You align your internal radio dial with the exact, uncorrupted vibrational frequency of your desired reality. In this state of formless grace, the physical world is completely neutralized. Stripped of all biological resistance, your mind becomes intensely receptive to the absolute power of the law of assumption. But how do you program this newly discovered quantum state without being consumed by the chaos of the unconscious mind? You must meticulously encode the immutable laws of your universe through the supreme gamified mechanics of a modern digital grimoire. The digital grimoire, the gamification of the subconscious. The ancient mystics forged reality through years of rigorous monastic discipline and the slow, chaotic friction of alchemy. But the modern architect has fundamentally digitized the sacred art of world building. What the collective casually refers to as the LIFA app or the meticulous practice of scripting is not a harmless psychological coping mechanism. It is a highly advanced digital grimoire. Through these tools, you are initiating a profound neurological protocol that serves as an executive functioning tool and a psychological anchoring mechanism. Before attempting to shift your consciousness, you use this application to meticulously script the exact coordinates of your desired reality. You are actively defining the immutable rules of an alternate universe, dictating your physical appearance, your personality traits, your precise relationships, and the specific scenarios that will unfold upon arrival. By designing password protection, customizable portals, and manifestation logs, you are effectively applying modern user experience and user interface design principles directly to the architecture of your human subconscious. You believe you are simply constructing a pristine sanctuary to insulate your exhausted spirit from the heavy density of the physical world. But you are unconsciously executing the absolute pinnacle of Neville Goddard's law of assumption. By formalizing the exact parameters of your fantasy, your script functions as a profound psychological anchor. It acts exactly like a guided meditation, signaling to the deepest layers of your subconscious what precise reality to construct once the profound sensory deprivation of the void state is achieved. You are not writing frivolous fiction to escape your pain. You are actively drafting the architectural blueprints of a new dimension, forcing your unconscious mind to adopt an absolute paradigm before your physical eyes can even perceive it. But how do you bridge the terrifying gap between the digital blueprint and the living, breathing universe? You must master the violent, unwavering assumption required to collapse the quantum wave into solid, carnal matter. The unwavering assumption, collapsing the wave. You have drafted the flawless blueprints of your alternate dimension. You have coded the immutable laws of your universe and stepped into the infinite silence of the void. But how do you force the phantom to become flesh? The ultimate secret of esoteric mastery lies in the terrifying discipline of the unwavering assumption. Neville Goddard revealed that the physical world is entirely neutralized when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled while suspended in the void. You do not hope for your desired reality, and you do not beg the cosmos to grant you sanctuary. You must set a fierce mental intention and believe the desired outcome with absolute, unshakable conviction. By embodying this precise emotional frequency, your subconscious mind instantly accepts the new reality as objective truth. You are executing the final violent collapse of the quantum wave. From this supreme state of pure receptivity, the transition out of the exhausting physical world is not a slow evolution. It is experienced as an immediate, visceral shift, akin to fast-forwarding directly to a desired scene on a film reel. Your unwavering assumption completely overrides your biological senses and hacks your neurological network. It forces the infinite wave of the universe to violently crystallize into dense carnal matter. This is the exact threshold where the Creator finally materializes the kingdom they have built in the ether. But here is the absolute terrifying revelation that separates the true alchemists from the ghosts haunting the void. The magnificent universe you have constructed was never meant to be your permanent grave. The ultimate test of your sovereignty is not your ability to build a synthetic paradise in the darkness. It is the majestic, harrowing discipline required to drag that divine blueprint back down into the heavy, breathing frequencies of the physical flesh. The veil between the unseen and the material is rapidly dissolving, and the true architects of this reality are being called to remember their sacred power. If you are ready to master the exact frequencies of your consciousness and bridge the worlds with clinical precision, step beyond the algorithm. Align your path with ours, where we unlock the absolute mastery of your multi-dimensional existence. The advanced blueprints required to resurrect your physical avatar are waiting, but the choice to awaken is entirely yours.
To the sovereign architect who built a perfect kingdom in the ether, only to watch the physical world starve in your absence. You were never meant to be a ghost haunting your own life. You were born to drag the divine down into the flesh.
The void is not a permanent grave for the exhausted soul. The imaginal realm is the alchemical forge of the divine. True sovereignty demands the terrifying descent back into matter. The Imaginal realm. You have successfully hacked the quantum architecture of your mind. You collapsed the chaotic wave of your exhaustion into the pristine silence of the void and built a flawless alternate dimension. But why does the magnificent universe you designed feel increasingly like a beautifully curated digital tomb?
Millions of awakened minds are falling into a profound ancient trap. In their desperate flight from the severe political unrest, climate anxiety, and occupational burnout of the 21st century, they have completely abandoned the physical plane. Clinical psychology calls this pathological dissociation, but the 12th century mystics and the philosopher Henri Corbin knew the terrifying truth. You have entered the mundus imaginalis. You have crossed into an absolutely objective reality, perfectly suspended between pure, formless spirit and dense matter. But by refusing to return, you are actively starving the physical world, triggering a catastrophic fracture known as the Great Disconnect. Today, we execute the final alchemical synthesis. We will reveal the supreme doctrine of Wadat al-Wujud, the unity of being, and why your exact frequency in the void proves you are the living breath of the cosmos. You are not a victim fleeing a burning house. You are the sovereign architect, and it is time to resurrect your physical avatar and heal the shattered soul of the world. The mundus imaginalis, the alam al-mithal. The physical universe has bowed to your unwavering assumption. You have collapsed the quantum wave and stepped out of the infinite void into a fully sensory, breathing reality. But the clinical world looks at your magnificent creation and dismisses it as a fragile hallucination.
Modern Western materialism demands that any realm born of the human mind must be entirely fictional, a desperate imaginary escape from biological burnout. They are profoundly historically blind. You have not retreated into a psychological coping mechanism. You have crossed the esoteric threshold into an absolute, objective dimension. To comprehend the true gravity of your arrival, we must look to the 12th century Andalusian mystic Ibn Arabi and the monumental translations of the French philosopher Henri Corbin. They mapped this exact coordinate of human consciousness, codifying it as the Alam al-Misal, or the Mundus Imaginalis.
This is the imaginal realm. It is an intermediary ontological dimension that exists perfectly suspended between the pure, formless energy of the divine and the dense, heavy gravity of sensory perception. Corbin fiercely warned that the imaginal must never be confused with the imaginary. It is not a passive daydream, but the world of images in suspense, a profound space where formless spiritual realities violently crystallize into perceptible matter and corporeal objects become deeply spiritualized. This sacred epiphanic dimension cannot be reached by the physical body, but is accessed solely through the highly specialized cognitive organ of your active imagination. Here, the chaotic archetypes of the collective unconscious are not encountered as abstract psychological concepts, but as living, breathing realities. You have successfully navigated the esoteric abyss and claimed your throne in the imaginal world. But what happens when a traumatized generation discovers a sacred ancient dimension and attempts to lock the gates from the inside? The Great Disconnect, the starving of matter. You have successfully ascended into the Alam al-Mithal, claiming your throne in a realm of absolute spiritual perfection. But a terrifying cosmic anomaly occurs when the Creator refuses to descend back into the flesh. By hoarding your quantum light in the unseen dimension, you are triggering a catastrophic event that the philosopher Henri Corbin identified as the Great Disconnect. You believe that by permanently severing your consciousness from the physical vessel, you are achieving ultimate freedom. But the material plane does not simply vanish when you close your eyes. It is left behind to rot. The physical world was never designed to operate without the supreme command of the awakened mind.
When you abandon your biological anchor, you are actively starving the anima mundi, the living, breathing soul of the world. Matter relies on the sovereign architect to continually drag divine blueprints down from the imaginal realm and forge them into solid reality. Without your conscious observation, the physical plane decays into the very chaos, burnout, and exhaustion that you originally fled. The suffering of the current reality is not a sign that you must escape. It is the screaming symptom of a world that has lost its master. The ancient alchemists understood that remaining permanently suspended in the mundus imaginalis is a profound spiritual failure. You are not aligned with the divine if your physical kingdom is burning to the ground while you hide in the ether. To mend this brutal psychic split between the body and the soul, you must realize a truth so monumental it will shatter the boundaries of your existence entirely. Prepare to confront the supreme doctrine of the 12th century mystics, where the illusion of separation is violently destroyed and the Creator finally realizes they are breathing the universe itself. The unity of being, Wahdat al-Wujud. You have witnessed the terrifying decay of a physical plane starved of its master. To heal this cosmic fracture, you must violently strip away the final, most persistent illusion of your modern existence. You are not a fragile, isolated fragment wandering blindly through an indifferent cosmos. The 12th century mystic Ibn Arabi mapped the absolute, ultimate truth of the universe, codifying it as Wahdat al-Wujud, the unity of being. This supreme doctrine dictates that all existence is a singular manifestation of one divine reality. It is a massive, unified consciousness expressing itself through the endless, chaotic diversity of creation. This ancient revelation is eerily echoed in the modern architect's reliance on the frequency of Neville Goddard's I Am state. Both of these majestic frameworks reveal the exact same terrifying and beautiful truth. When your individual consciousness is entirely stripped of its dense biological boundaries in the silence of the void, a magnificent synthesis occurs. You realize that your awareness is absolutely contiguous with the ultimate creative force of the universe itself. There is zero separation between the architect who dreams the world and the architecture that builds it. For centuries, modern scientific reductionism and rigid materialism have systematically denied you access to this fundamental archetypal dimension of your own psyche. You were taught that empirical science and the transcendent spirit were opposing forces, locked in an eternal war. But the rigorous study of the Alam al-Misal brings the awakened mind full circle. You finally realize that science is not an obstacle to the transcendent. Deliberately entering the imaginal realm is the exact mechanical requirement needed to break the suffocating stranglehold of your habitual, exhausted consciousness. It is the ultimate quantum protocol designed to shatter the mundane loop of your daily survival. You are the living breath of the cosmos, finally remembering its own immense sovereign power. But how do you wield the terrifying weight of the entire universe without crushing your fragile human vessel? The time has come to execute the final majestic descent back into the flesh and heal the shattered soul of the world. The majestic descent, healing the anima mundi. The grand alchemical synthesis is complete. You have survived the violent exhaustion of the material plane, collapsed the quantum wave in the absolute silence of the void, and claimed your sovereignty in the mundus imaginalis. But the supreme architects of reality know that true divinity is not found in the escape. It is forged in the majestic, terrifying descent back into the flesh.
To leave your physical kingdom rotting while you reign in the ether is the ultimate tragedy of the great disconnect. You are called to execute the final esoteric operation, to become the living, breathing bridge between the formless spirit and the solid earth. How do you drag an entire universe out of the Alam al-Mithal and force it to crystallize into your waking physical life? The secret lies in the terrifying biological power of your own nervous system.
The physical body you once viewed as a cage of burnout is actually the most highly advanced multidimensional technology in the cosmos. It is the exact quantum anchor required to pull the imaginal world down into the material plane. You must not simply visit your desired reality. You must download its dense sensory weight directly into your biological hardware. Through the sheer brute force of neuroplasticity, you physically rewire your brain to hold the exact frequency of the unseen dimension. You must walk through the ashes of the current reality, carrying the absolute, uncompromising emotional signature of the world you built in the dark. When your biology perfectly mimics the exact vibration of the imaginal realm, the quantum wave of the physical universe has no choice but to violently collapse and match your frequency. The phantom becomes flesh.
This is the true sacred purpose of the active imagination. By bringing the magnificent light of the unseen down into the heavy density of matter, you are actively mending the profound psychic split of humanity. You are healing the anima mundi, the shattered soul of the world. You are no longer a victim fleeing a burning house. You are the ancient, sovereign alchemist returning to rebuild the kingdom.
The physical plane is not a prison. It is simply the final canvas waiting for your masterpiece to arrive. The veil between the unseen and the material has permanently dissolved, but the true evolution of your multi-dimensional consciousness has only just begun. If you are ready to wield the absolute mechanics of your mind and master the profound architecture of your existence, step beyond this algorithmic illusion. Align your path with ours, where we unlock the final blueprints required to rule the physical flesh and command the universe.